today we're going to talk about why moving to Northern Nevada might save your financial future. In California, I'm talking specifically to you. So if you're tired of potentially paying $20,000+ a year in state income tax, or maybe you're still renting a place with no yard and you're parking on the street, you're not crazy. California is beautiful, but it's not exactly easy to build wealth there anymore. And that's why more and more people, especially families and early retirees and remote workers, are turning their attention and heading toward Northern Nevada. So today what we want to do is talk about and show you why this might not be just cheaper, but it might actually save your financial future. So let's check it out. Sydney Lessinger is on. At some point, I'll probably just stop introducing you since everyone kind of expects you to be on the videos. It's always awesome. We get to meet our clients in person. They're like, oh, you're both here. Like they're used to us now as far as all that stuff goes. Today, we want to talk about some finances and why, I have a whole separate I have a whole separate finance channel called Complete Money Playbook, where I like to talk to people about money and finances and how to get ahead financially, and housing is one of the ways to do that. And I think as much as we talk about how hard it is to get ahead financially or housing affordability here in Northern Nevada, for California, it is way more difficult. And so we're calling it the California Crunch. If you're someone who lives in California, especially if you live in these big cities, LA, the Bay Area, San Diego, the really expensive parts of California, maybe not quite as much in the central part, which we help plenty of people do. We want to talk about some of the benefits and some of the reasons why it's hard there and easier here to start not only being a homeowner, but working towards your financial future. And so what are some of the stats and some of the numbers that we talk about that are just so much better here than over there, and some of the negatives for California? So let's go.
The biggest difference between us and California is state income tax. California sits very high up on the list nationally.
I think it's second highest.
Yeah, 9 to 13%, depending on where you are. Mm-hmm. It's significant. The next is the median household sale price is $800,000. That's very high.
Well, and in the cities we mentioned, Bay Area, I mean, it could be even way higher. Now, this takes into account those parts of Central California where prices are more similar to ours, but the big area, especially the Bay Area where people move here from, it's $1 million plus almost for anything.
Yes, there are also Prop 19 issues happening in California that Nevada is not a part of. I'm pretty sure Prop 19 is only California.
It's a California thing with property taxes. And again, that's part of the same reason why, like, a lot of people stay in the house they're in because they got these really low interest rates. But in California, your property tax, and correct me if I'm wrong, viewers, is based upon your sale price.
Yes.
And so if you bought the home 20, 30, 40 years ago, you're locked into really low property taxes. And that whole Prop 19 thing deals with all that stuff because it's a question we get all the time about property taxes here in Northern Nevada. And ours are just done differently. We'll talk about that in a minute, but property taxes are a huge thing for California.
Renting in California is also quite expensive. Their 2-bedroom apartments averagely are about $3,000 a month. Obviously, like you had said, in some of the bigger cities, it's going to potentially be more expensive than that.
Well, and then just your standard cost of living things, gas, groceries, food, transportation, insurance, all those kind of things in California are just going to be much more expensive than they are here. And so again, you could be making $150,000 a year living in California and have a hard time getting ahead financially. I know my girlfriend's daughter, she lives in Southern California. She has her boyfriend and a third roommate. The three of them share a condo that they get decent rent because the third roommate, it's his parents' condo. So they have an inn on top of it, and it is still hard for them to get ahead financially. I can't tell how many times, I don't know what gas prices are now, but I remember her complaining a few times about it being $7 a gallon where she was. And as much as gas has gone up, I know I was out of town for 2 weeks and I came back and gas is probably 30, 40 cents more than it was when I left. Still, we're talking low $4, high $3, depending on what kind of gas you're buying, not $7 as far as that stuff. So a lot of people just feel like it's impossible to get ahead. Right. We're calling Nevada potentially for people a financial escape hatch. Mm-hmm. And so if you're looking to cross the state line, if you're looking to try to make a move to Northern Nevada just because it's way more affordable here, what are some of the key financial wins that maybe they're not thinking about besides just their income and their job and house prices? Those are all big things that people talk about. What are some other things that, are key wins for people?
Definitely one that gets mentioned the most is no state income tax. We are not going to tax your income here, and that potentially is saving people tens of thousands of dollars, depending on what your job would allow you to do with a transfer or bringing your money over, whatever it may be. That is very, very beneficial. Overall, averagely, our median sales price is significantly lower than the state of California. We're pushing $600,000, but that's still relatively.
And we can still find lots of good stuff between $400,000 and $600,000. We're getting ready to list 3 or 4 properties that are all in that price point right now. Couple of condos, couple of small homes, and you can still find some nice stuff in that price point. Like you said in previous videos, we're talking about retirees.
Yes.
It's just much more affordable here, as far as the business climate for people bringing in a business or retirees that are just, they're done. It just becomes a lot more affordable. We joke about all the time. The worst state to die in is California. And I know my family used to own lots of real estate and property and things in California. It is all gone. We don't own anything in California anymore. Stepmom moved to Arizona, got all their money out of there. And so it's a huge difference. So between lowering your tax bill, lowering your house payment, lowering your rent, just all along the board financially, it's a huge benefit to come here as far as that stuff goes. If you're someone who's thinking about moving to Northern Nevada, do me a favor. Click the link in the description below where you can get a copy of our free buyer's guide that'll get you some great info on how to get started on your journey here to Northern Nevada. If you don't own in California and you can buy here, and we're talking about trying to build up some home equity in a short amount of time, because again, people's first home, it's not going to be your dream home. It's a way to get in the game and get started. I think some people want to overshoot and spend too much and buy too much house.
Right.
You just want to get started. I mean, at this point, you just want to get started. So we're going to use an example here, and we're going to say, just to make the numbers round and easier, if you were to buy a $550,000 home, which is a little below the average or median sales price here in Northern Nevada, and you put 10% down. So you got to find a way to come up with $55,000, potentially some closing cost money on top of that. But if prices just went along at a normal sort of cost of living appreciation at 4% per year, that $550,000 home in 5 years is going to be worth $670,000. So we're not even talking about how much you've paid down your mortgage, which won't be a lot in the first 5 years, but you've now built up $120,000 worth of equity, plus ideally you put $55,000 in it, and now you're in ability to potentially move up. Who knows what prices and interest rates and all that stuff are going to be, but that example for somebody can be game changing if you can't get into the game there versus here. So are you seeing people coming here mostly as renters or coming here as people that are previous homeowners from California?
A lot of previous homeowners. I typically am seeing people over the age of 40 coming from California. It's rare that I have had people in kind of more my age category be coming out of California. I think a lot of them are still figuring out what to do. So the people that I'm dealing with predominantly are either retired or semi-retired and close to being that age. So they're typically either 1031s or cash buyers. So
let's go back into this younger crowd that we're talking to. If there's Californians watching this that are younger people, and we said on a previous video, average rent was like $3,000.
Yep.
So if you're paying average rent over those 5 years, but instead you can come here and build up this equity. So like we just talked about, you might have $120,000+ in equity besides tax savings and other things versus you might have paid $150,000, $180,000 a year in rent. It can be that financial kickstart that people are looking for. Hopefully we'll start to see more of these people come versus just previous homeowners that have already sort of won a little bit. And now they're just looking for whatever reason, lots of different reasons why people move here. And so we want to talk about some of the non-financial benefits. I think it's things that people don't realize that when they move here, why that is. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's play the long game here. We want people to realize, Nevada, if you're moving here, this is not just a short-term trying to win. We're trying to build up a long-term winning game. And what are some of the things, again, in the demographic and the people that are moving here that are seeing them win long-term?
We are retirement friendly. We have plenty of good areas for retirees to be in while still living in a growing, bustling city. I mean, bustling isn't necessarily the word I would use to describe Reno, but we're growing.
Right.
But also good for retirees, raising your family. And we have a lower overall just income tax rate.
Right.
We're very friendly in that sense.
We have high upside here. So for example, we can't use the name of this particular person, but someone who's been in the real estate industry for a long time had reached out to us who could literally buy rental property anywhere in America.
Yep.
And he had told us that he thought Reno was one of those handful of cities that he thought he would buy rental property in. And at some point he may or may not, but at this point, you know, if he's saying this is a great place long-term for real estate, then that's enough for me to talk about that. The hidden wins. So everyone talks about, again, we talk about prices and tax savings and jobs and all that stuff, but a lot of things as to why people move here, it's kind of the same story I talk about all the time where my aunt lived in Manhattan in New York for 40 years.
Yeah.
And I don't realize how much she realized how upset and how angry and unhappy and all those things and the headaches of living in Manhattan were till she moved to Las Vegas to live with her sister. And even then, it took her a couple of years to almost unwind and unrealize, like, this is hectic there. Yeah. I think a lot of places in California are hectic that way too. And a lot of the non-financial, not thought of reasons why people move somewhere are big. And so what are some of those things that people don't think about that are non-financial?
We're definitely a smaller, quieter city, depending on where you're coming from. And commute times typically are not very long, depending on what you do. Obviously, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but commute times are relatively low.
We drive 5 minutes to our office.
Yeah, it's a far way.
I know some people have to drive 20 minutes. Whew.
Yeah.
Big deal there.
Yeah, exactly. I think we also have a lot of entertainment options. We're a really good hub to get back to California. So we're close by. We're in an area as well that has a lot of exterior outdoor recreation that you might have not had ample access to in California because of whatever rules they might have had.
Yeah, less bureaucracy, less things. It's more business friendly. It's more landlord friendly.
Yeah.
It's definitely a place to be able to get ahead. I know, we talk about, and it's funny how sometimes we get comments in the video about crime or traffic.
Yep.
It's very, like every city has its spots in towns that there's problems. But I always joke about how when people comment about, well, your crime is this, or your schools are that, or your traffic is this, I always ask them, do you live here? Where do you live that doesn't have any of these things? And again, a lot of that is just very isolated pockets of neighborhoods. I mean, we lived in Reno a long time, and those are things I wouldn't necessarily complain about. So the one thing that we do have to explain to people this is we always say, Reno is not California.
Right.
It's not the Bay Area. It is not LA. It is different here. And what do you say to people that when they come here, they're like, that's not how we do it in California, but you're leaving California. What do we say to those people?
Yes, you're not trading what you're giving in California to come to Reno and change it.
Right.
We're different, and there's a lot of differences between that. You're going to lose some of the flash, but you're going to gain some freedom out of being here and being out of California.
Right. It was funny. We did some research on this, and one of the things that popped up was it says, you're not going to have an in and out on every corner. Yet we have 3 of them here now.
Yeah.
And so some of the big reasons why people have California, the benefits of living in California. I like I said, as a really young kid, I lived in California. My dad and stepmom lived in Manhattan Beach for years. I love to visit California. I like to go to California. Many people who live here in the Bay Area, our friend Andrew here, who records all the videos for us, he's in the Bay Area all the time because he's a huge Giants fan, a 49ers fan. And so you can go there, enjoy the things, go there, takes his kids and has fun there, and then comes on back and lives here and does his life here. So you get the benefits of being able to visit there and not have to do all those things. And so when we talk about all those things, it's really trying to help people understand that this is a way to not just have, in our opinion, a better place to live, but really work on your financial future, because it's going to be really hard for people to. California's just expensive. Homes are expensive. Everything to get started is expensive. And I think for a lot of people, they realize, though, if they do leave, it's almost impossible to go back.
Yes.
And so you just want people to understand that this is the place. You can start here, especially if you're coming from there, because we are inexpensive compared to there. And so we think of it as a financial kickstarting,
yes.
Let's go, so that you can build up your long-term wealth. Because like we said, nobody wants to be worried about every nickel, every month, living paycheck to paycheck, making 6+ figures and still feeling like you're not going to get ahead. So with that being said, people in your car, are they surprised by Reno? Are they not surprised by Reno? And do they think financially they can get ahead here?
Absolutely. They are typically pleasantly surprised with what we have to offer, especially if they are moving financing from one state to the other. There have been no complaints and no issues about it. We have enough going on here that it's been beneficial for everyone.
I think most people are pleasantly surprised how awesome it actually is living in Northern Nevada. So everyone's case is specific. If you are having questions, if you're trying to figure out how to get here, reach out to us and we'll get you the information that you need. So if you're someone who's thinking about, is it financially smarter to live in Northern Nevada? Check out this video we did right here about all things cost of living and reach out to us with your specific questions. We're happy to get you answers.